Everyone, good afternoon. Happy Wednesday. Happy Wednesday. I'm going to mute everyone here quickly. All right, I think we are all muted, so just a reminder, if you could just keep your mic muted. You are always welcome to turn off that mute and to turn on your camera if you'd like. You don't have to when speaking. So it is 4:01. We are going to go ahead and call our meeting for today, our calendar committee meeting to order. I want to thank you all for joining us today. And I am scrolling down here to look for my agenda because I'm pretty sure I opened it to share it with you all. Give me 1 second here. There it is. All right. Go. Let's see, there we go. All right, so we've got the agenda here up in front of you. We will kind of just move through and stay in step with our agenda for today. Our first item of business is to review and consider approval of our minutes from our last meeting. That was October 7th, 2020, from our calendar committee. Is there anybody who would like to unmute and motion to approve those minutes?
This is Ray Connolly. I move that we approve the minutes.
This is Jill Malorani. I second.
Very good. We have a motion to approve as well as a second. All those in favor, please unmute and signify by aye.
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 It's got a nice little melody to it instead of a chorus. It's kind of, trickling through. Any nays? Very good. Motion passes, and so our minutes have been approved. The next item, and likely the item that we'll spend a majority of the time on, I believe, today, is number 4 and 5. Review and discuss the survey results from our 2020 school calendar survey. I sent those to you via email. They came to you in two documents that were attached to that email. The first was just the PDF that shared the results. There were some graphs as well as some data below that you could see that we were able to pull. And then in addition, we also had an Excel file. The Excel file were all of the comments to the open-ended items in our survey. A couple of notes, we had roughly 5,000 people respond to the survey when we last gave that in 2017. We were really pleased with our results this year that we had an increase and we had almost 6,300 respondents on this survey. So that was awesome to see. I was going to just quickly talk through the data that you have in front of you, and then I'll pause for any questions or anybody that wants to dive a little bit deeper on any of the items. First question we asked was for participants to indicate their relationship to the Peoria Unified School District. You note we had participation from every one of the groups that we singled out on there. The largest group that was represented were those parents of our elementary school students. A close second there with the parents of our high school students that participated in that survey. Moving on, we asked for their overall satisfaction with our current 2020-21 school calendar, and we asked them to indicate so on a scale from 1, extremely unsatisfied, all the way to extremely satisfied. By and large, if you look at the data, they are very satisfied with the current makeup of our calendar. So we did have, a large majority that's saying that they liked the current structure of our current calendar. We then move on and kind of break down our data and ask them to talk to us about specific aspects of our current calendar and how they feel about those. You have all of that likely in your email. I'm going to see if I can pull up for you. Let's see. Calendar. What's, I think, most interesting to note as it relates to all of those different aspects of the calendar, it's all, you can see clear satisfaction through all the different aspects until you get to the question on fall break. That one never ceases to amaze me that I think there's going to be a little bit more discrepancy in that one, but by and large, what you can see from the data is that they really, really love our current fall break falling over Thanksgiving. So I thought that that was really significant to note. I forgot I was going to pull this up for you to see. So let's see. Let me go back here a slide. So thank you, Sarah, from our team put this together for me, and I meant to launch it to walk you through all of it. Then you can move on, and you'll recall that we asked for them to give us information, and that's what you should see on the screen before you, on their preference for future concepts for us to potentially have a group consider. It was really interesting feedback, so thank you. I know there were a couple of you that wanted to make sure we asked this question. I think it was a great suggestion to get a little bit of insight. We'd probably need a little bit more insight and to drill down on that a little bit more, but we asked them about modified year-round, a year-round calendar, a 4-day school week, and then those open-ended responses as well. And so you can see quite a few of them seem to be interested, not quite half, but interested in a modified year-round calendar. So that might be something that we want to take a look at in the future. Also, a little bit of more interest in a 4-day school week there too. I'll remind you that we asked that so that this could be something that we might want to look at or have them consider for the future. That was also interesting to note. So I'm going to pause there. That's a really high level kind of flyby of the data that was presented. I can also pull up the file that I sent you if that's helpful for us to look at, more specifically in any way. But I'm going to pause there in case anybody would like to have any discussion specifically about the data we received.
Danielle, I have a question. This is Ray. Can you hear me?
Ray. Yes,
Okay.
I can hear you.
What numbers should we consider to be favorable? Do we start at 8? Do we consider 8, 9, 10, or what are those numbers?
Oh, Danielle, you're muted.
Thank you. What I see as favorable when I look at the data is the 7, 8, 9, 10, but we could absolutely still look or drill that down further and look at the 8, 9, 10 for more of a favorable to extremely favorable category. And you can see kind of results that way. It was interesting, though, to that question, Ray, as I kind of double checked back through it. I don't know that there's many questions where that 7 or 8 makes a big difference or not. What do you think?
I agree with you.
So it could probably be however the committee would prefer we represent it.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments or observations about the data?
Ms. Conley, that's a great point. Some of the experiences I've had, I've seen 8 as a detractor and, 7 as a detractor and 8 as neutral and 9, 10 as favorable. So Danielle, when you're explaining how we're determining what is considered favorable, I know you said that 7, 8, and 9, 10. How are we determining that? What's favorable?
So it's a good question. I typically look to our research department, who really are the ones that are digging in and analyzing and spending a lot of time with data quite frequently for that. And so that's typically the guidance that they give us. But again, know that this is a snapshot from our community, and that's where you all come in, that you're looking at this and saying, what are you seeing here from this feedback, and how are you seeing us moving forward with the data that we have? So certainly your insight, I would say, as a team matters in looking at this.
Thank you for that.
Any others? Would you like, not hearing any other comments specific to that data, is it because you're just wanting to move on and implement it and look at some calendars and talk through what this means for our objective? I don't want to rush us through, but I want to make sure if that's really what you're kind of holding out for, I'm fine with that. Hello, Julie, welcome.
Hi, sorry I'm late.
That's okay.
I had a lot going on today, so that's why I'm late, but I have no idea where we are in the agenda for obvious reasons.
No worries. We're looking at, I believe it's agenda item 4. We're looking specifically at the data that I sent to you via email and just talking about any observations, any thoughts, anything related to the data we want to discuss before we move on and actually implement it into a calendar.
Okay.
Anything you want to note?
Danielle, I have a question. Oh, sorry, Ms. Gerritsen. Go ahead.
So because I did look through everything that you sent yesterday, so you're talking about the survey results.
Yes, that's right.
Okay. I thought it was very interesting, some of it, especially since I've been on the calendar committee for many years at this point. So, oh, and I'm not looking at it right now, but I was surprised by the high percent that said they were interested in the modified year round, not the 200 days, but the other year round. That was whatever that option said. I was surprised by that percent being so high. That's really the only observation I have.
And thank you for that. Mrs. Seja Martinez.
One more question. You mentioned 63 roughly responded. Normally you share with the board what percentage of families that covers. Do you have that information as well?
I do not, but while we move on to Mrs. Slater, I could bust out my calculator and run that through for you.
Not a problem. Thank you.
Hi there. I just wanted to ask, because the question came up is, if we generate a calendar kind of going off of this, but knowing, we've got some critical decisions coming up with the elections and everything, what happens if, is the calendar going to change? Because at one point, I know the 4-day calendar came out as a cost saving measure. So if we even create this calendar, is there the possibility that that 4-day schedule becomes a contender as looking at how do we handle that impact, if not, maybe crisis averted, but how, I guess when we're saying, are we going to push out a calendar, is there more that we have to wait on before we can push out a calendar, or do you guys just want to move forward as is?
That's a really good question. And I think it's a good question for almost anything that we're discussing, not just calendar at this point in our environment. Obviously you're referencing, we have 2 ballot initiatives that are on the ballot this November, and one of those would be the maintenance and operation override, which is, if not successful, is going to result in a reduction of $30 million from our school district's budget. A 4-day school week has been something proposed in the past when we were in some past kind of budget crisis modes. And so my best guess, without a crystal ball for you, would be that there is always that opportunity that the governing board can bring back a calendar before it goes to get ratified for the upcoming year and have discussion on making changes to that calendar. I absolutely cannot speak for the board, but I would find it, hard to believe that they would make that decision right now for a calendar for next school year. And if you recall, we're looking beyond that. And so certainly whatever we bring forward for approval could certainly be in alignment with the data we're getting from the survey and our recommendations. But then, if we find ourselves in that state that they are having to make some difficult budgetary decisions next year for the following school year, they always have an opportunity to bring back a calendar, have discussion on the impact of that calendar on our environment, and make any changes. Does that make sense? Is that what you were getting at?
Perfect. Thank you. Yes, it was.
Okay. And Mrs. Seja Martinez?
Just to piggyback on that question, has the district already done the cost analysis on the 4-day schedule based on the previous information since it was a discussion?
So we haven't gone through to do that. That would be probably a multi-month project in kind of looking at all those different variables. So we have data from when that was discussed previously, but again, that was in 2015. So a very different environment for our school district than it is right now.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mrs. Connolly?
Danielle, in looking at the data, and Julie mentioned this, there was interest in looking at the modified year-round and also the 4-day, but in reading the comments, not that I read through all of them because there's so many, but is it possible that somebody said, I want the calendar committee to look at this because I don't want it? Because there were plenty of folks that said, they were not on board with the modified year-round. They were not on board with the 4-day. So I'm just wondering, in looking at this data, can we look at it just as, if you said, yes, calendar committee, look at the modified year-round, I don't think we can really assume that that's a, yay, I'm pro modified calendar. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, so I think you bring up a really good point. I'm glad you asked that, because I think the sense from that question was kind of to dip our toe in the water of, we want to make sure that we're not ever just doing things just to do them, and that we are always looking to be innovative, and that we are always kind of getting that pulse from our community. My personal feedback, and I would open it up after this to those of you, is that I think this question would need a lot more further study and further feedback in order to make any drastic decisions moving forward. So I don't believe that this question should really strongly guide your decision for today, but I think it should prompt you to have further thought on, is this something that a smaller group or another group, possibly needs to dig into a little deeper, potentially in the spring, or certainly before the next 2 years when the calendar committee reconvenes again.
I do think we need to be careful about that, so thank you.
Can I chime on that, Ray, real quick? Because I feel it kind of forced, so the numbers don't match, because what I guess we probably should have had was nothing, keep it as is, where it makes it look like people are really interested in a particular thing, but it's because they were kind of forced to pick one. So I agree with that. Like, I think if we dug more and had a different option of, I don't want any of these, I want to keep it as is, I think those numbers would look drastically different. Possibly.
I think that's a really, that's a good point to add on, and why I think something like that is something to note we could study further and look into further, but it's not necessarily something for the impact of your decision today. Mrs. Melarani.
Hi, and I apologize if I missed this last week. Why did we not want to discuss the modified Wednesday? Can we assume that it's going to go back to Mondays?
No, so we've not traditionally discussed that as part of this, because our early release calendar is not something that the governing board approves. It's based on an academic recommendation. We bring it forward to the board beforehand, but it's not part of the requirement by law that you're fulfilling and by policy that you're fulfilling by making recommendations to the board. So the work you're doing will drive the ability for them to make decisions in our academic wing about what would be appropriate for professional development and early release.
I got you. Okay, and this is not related, but I had a friend ask me this. Do specials count as instructional minutes when we're looking at the calendar?
Do our special area classes count as instructional minutes? There is, and I know Ray and Becky will correct me if I misspeak here, or possibly Mrs. Meredith, who's on the call with us tonight. But there are state requirements around physical education and arts education that we have to fulfill. So certainly they count as far as that aspect towards the state. Now, there are certain aspects of arts and things that we don't have to provide as required by law, but there are aspects that we are required to provide.
Okay, thank you so much.
Anything else on the survey, or do you want me to move on to actual looking at some calendars and that work? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to move on and ask Mrs. Meredith if she can share her screen with us potentially. So for those of you who have been on the calendar committee for a while, you will recall that every year we always have a year that is a year that is a challenge to find kind of a really solid calendar. So what I want to tell you first is that we have looked at creating 3 more years of calendars as draft calendars that equal 180 days that mirror the concepts of our current calendar based on the data we received. So we can do this a couple of ways. I'm going to leave it up to you as a committee. We can either well, first, I guess what we should do is check in and make sure that our assumption in drafting those calendars was spot on, maybe with a couple of other discussion points. So a calendar with a midweek start, a fall break over Thanksgiving, a calendar with a spring break, an April break that concludes prior to Memorial Day. That's what you saw in the data. That's what we saw as well.
I agree with that. That makes sense.
Okay. So that said, 2022-2023, which is our first calendar to look at, is the year. That's a little more challenging. So we actually brought multiple calendars forward for that one because that was the one that was much more challenging to kind of match and have, some balanced calendars for you. And so Sarah, can you refresh my memory? Did we end up with 2 or 3 calendars drafts of this one?
We ended up with 2 because of the January 1st conundrum.
Okay, very good. Thank you for pointing that out. So what you're looking at on your screen, if you look at the right side of your screen first, you'll see a sort of kind of midweek start. And on the left, you'll see a calendar that does not have a midweek start. I think some of you will remember there have been years past when even though it's wonderful to have that midweek start, we almost always, about every 6 or 7 years, have a calendar where that's really challenging in order to meet all of our minutes based on the way that the days fall. And so the calendar that you're looking on, and you're right first, that's where I want to focus your attention, begins on Tuesday, August 2nd. You'll see, and I know that's early because I know that's the first thing that some of my friends on here will say. You'll see that it runs through, it has September, a day off, of course, for Labor Day. You'll see the parent-teacher conferences indicated in October. November, you'll see the day off for Veterans Day. We'll cruise through for a full week off for fall break. And then we will begin winter break, December 19th. Winter break then runs 1 extra day and we begin our what would be a typical midweek start at the beginning of the year. We also have that kind of atypical midweek start on a Tuesday in January. It goes through February is typical. March, you can see spring break indicated in there, an April break, and then it does conclude before Memorial Day as well. On the calendar on the left, the only major difference there is you'll see it does not include that. It does not include the midweek start, so it starts on a Monday. And then it looks like the other difference for this one, Sarah, you have to refresh my memory. The only other difference is when that 3rd quarter is ending. Does that look correct?
I believe those are the only main differences.
Okay. So we're starting off with a challenging one. I am hopeful that that will make the other the other years we have to tackle a little bit easier. But did want to note that for you, that this one was just kind of a little more challenging. I'm going to pause there. Amanda?
If we start on the left-hand side on Monday the 1st, do we have that day put in anywhere else? Or like, because we would have the one day off on the...
Yes.
Do we put it in somewhere else? Like, is it...
I apologize. I should have noted that the other difference, and that's the end of the school year.
Okay.
So the end of the school year is different as well.
Okay, I see that. Thank you.
I think that's where my question comes in, Danielle, is I could be looking at this wrong, but if you start on the left-hand side, if you start school essentially a day earlier, you still have all the same breaks, but then we're ending later, versus on the right, we're starting later and ending earlier. So how do those days even equal, just looking at it overall? It looks like there's definitely more school days on the left and not the same amount on the right. Am I wrong on that? Am I looking at that wrong?
I'm trying to add up the days at the bottom here really quickly because I'm just noticing that as well.
Let me recount the days on the actual calendar because I think you're right, Becky. I think I counted wrong.
I think starting this early is going to make a case for all those people, and I don't know if they were teachers or families or who really want an earlier fall break, because now we're talking about the entire month of August with not a significant break until November. So I think this, just reading the comments, I know that we're really torn on this, but I think there's going to be a cry for, oh my gosh, now you're telling us we're going to start August 1st and we don't have a really significant break until November 21st. That's going to be sticky.
Sarah, I think I noticed what it is. I think you were actually right with your end of school year. I think we were going to start that one on Monday, August 8th, not the 1st.
I can make that adjustment.
I think that was the difference there. So I think your end was correct, that we would have to go later, because I think what we were trying to accomplish was the calendar on the right being a midweek start, which is what our families obviously have told us, but the one on the left foregoing the midweek start to start the year a little bit later. Does that sound a little bit better to those that were looking at the difference or the purpose of having two? And again, we'll double check those numbers, but.
I think that makes sense.
Okay. And who am I missing who has their hand up? I apologize. Becky, is that a new hand?
It wasn't, but now it is. I'm sorry. Just clarification. I'm sure it's just good practice because it's following, but do you have to have the Monday following New Year's Day off, or is that the reason for that change, or is that not necessarily required, but you think it'd probably be best?
No, we are not. We are required to observe a day for New Year's Day. So yes, we are required to observe a day for.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Dawn.
Okay, I know we had a good discussion about kindergarten and going closer to the Christmas cutoff. Can we consider, just because it's so tenacious looking at that whole package, like she said, going from, like August 1st, 8th, that all the way until November before we get a real break. How does it impact us if we bump down? And again, I'm going to say, I remember us all talking about, the kindergarten level kids, and going all the way to the 21st was like scary. So just want to throw that out there.
So going to the 21st, you mean for winter break?
Yeah. Instead of being done on the 15th, be done on the 22nd or on the 21st and kind of adjust it that way.
Thoughts on moving winter break? Ashley, I see your hand up.
I just wanted to clarify on that. Was the thought to move winter break back so then we could add more time off in that first semester? Is that was the thought was, so we weren't going all the way till November without a break?
My thought was that if we bumped it into like the week going longer, then we would bump into January. So then we wouldn't need to worry about the Monday off because it would be kind of incorporated in our actual break. But I know little kindergartners a little cray-cray when a break comes close to Christmas. So I do remember having a conversation about that. I just don't remember if this was the year we were talking about it.
And we could certainly look at moving that. Any other feedback on making a change to winter break?
I would counter just because of attendance reasons. When you push so close to that holiday and just trying to, and everything that's going on, it's really hard when you're that close. But I mean, if that's what the team agrees, I can see that. I would rather just have that Monday off in lieu of moving that whole week, and the prior or a week later, I'd probably just go with the Monday off. It would just be my input.
Jill?
I'm just curious, what other samples did you put for, or what other things are we going to see?
So these are the only two drafts for 22-23, but at the direction of this committee, we can do anything. So it's just a baseline for us to start with and work within, with the required holidays up there and on the board. And so you can see what days of the week where holidays and things fall.
Okay, so there isn't there's no modified year round that we're going to look at.
No, we're looking at, I think from what I heard from you all, was to look at the concepts from the survey, which was the majority telling us they like our current calendar. And that for future study, a future committee or team might want to look into those other options.
Okay, then my only comment for this one would be having parent-teacher conferences after spring break. Seems, I mean, I'm not a teacher, of course, but just as a mom, I just think kids would probably be scrambling to get it done the 3 days before they get back. So I would, if there's possible to have it on the 9th and 10th on the schedule on the left too, that would be my only comment on this one then.
And thoughts on the placement there of spring break?
I would like it later also. I saw that comment a couple of times in the survey personally.
On moving it to March 20th through the 24th?
Yes.
But keeping, and I'm not sure what that does to our quarters.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sorry.
Is there someone from the team that might want to, that might have a calculator handy that wants to kind of volunteer to help once we get a little bit more cohesion around where we want things to fall with double checking our math?
I can do that if you want me to.
Thank you, Erin. And so, and if you wouldn't mind, if you've asked your question, if you would lower your hand so that I can ensure if it's a new question or not, so I don't call on you. Thank you. And Dawn, do you have a new question? Nope. Okay, lowering hand. So let me make sure, Mrs. Ceja Martinez. Think you might be muted.
I am. I double mute myself just in case. You never know what the background noise I have. I don't have a solution, but just thinking about all the emails that I get from parents as a result of COVID-19, a lot of them are concerned with how do we close the academic achievement gap and being mindful of the days off, and it coincides. And you already had touched the surface of the academic quarters. What they don't have big breaks in their learning, if they're coming from, or if we're trying to make up some ground as a result of COVID, and then we have big breaks in the first quarter. I'm just thinking out loud, would that help or be a detractor of closing some of those academic achievement gaps? We know as educators that it takes about a month just to get students in the routine of things and then building up on their academics. So I'm thinking out loud with some of the emails that I get about the calendar. Does that all make sense?
I believe so. Mona, I think I see your hand up too.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hello.
Can I turn my camera on too so you can all see me? Okay. I did a rough check of a start date on the 1st, if I'm reading that right, for the kids to come back on the 1st. And the teachers would
we don't have kids on the 1st. But
okay, it's the 2nd?
One is the 2nd and one is the 8th.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, then that changes it to 186 for the teachers. I was just quickly counting those days.
Yeah, I think we had the wrong date indicated on there. So I think what we meant was the 8th, on August 8th.
All right, that answers my question. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Danielle, I just have one request outside of the calendar in regards to the template. And that is, right now we do color coding. I recently have been more upfront with colors being a challenge. Has there been thought about changing the calendar to pattern instead of color?
We can look into that. I know we have it in an ADA compliant format on our website because we are required to for visual, anyone with a visual impairment, but I can double check to make sure that we're still meeting that guidance.
Okay. And I'll just reiterate, there's a line that is just meeting, and then there's an opportunity to exceed. So maybe there's an opportunity where we provide two templates, one that is in color and one that's not.
And we do have that because we have our actual calendar with the days indicated on them too.
Thank you so much.
All right, so if we can start to maybe kind of coalesce around kind of a first day, foregoing that midweek start or still going with a midweek start. It seemed unlikely that we could go with a midweek start and start any later than August 8th.
Danielle?
Yes.
I just redid the math, and if I think I counted everything right, we're currently 5 days short starting on the 8th. That's why it was moved to the 1st initially.
Okay.
So we would, in order to meet the days and not go into basically June, it would have to start on August 1st.
So it would have to start on the 1st and end the week before you have it indicated on the calendar on the left. So,
no, it would still have to end the 23rd, but start the 1st.
Is there someone else that wants to kind of, I know it's tiny. What the other thing we can do is email these out to you as well, but
I can make this bigger too.
Yeah.
But if we start on the 1st on that left-hand side, then we're still going later than the calendar on the right-hand side. So that doesn't make sense either.
Right. So one of those, I think we just might want to double check because I don't think one of them just doesn't work altogether then, right? Because if
I believe the other one no longer works because of that January 1st issue. And extending the winter break out a little.
Right, but we don't have to extend that winter break because the 30th can be the day off for the 1st. Is that correct?
Not according to revised statute. If the holiday's on a Sunday, we have to observe on a Monday, and if it's on a Saturday, we have to observe Friday.
That's right. Thank you for that. All right, so we can kind of scroll up. I agree with you. That's an awfully early start. So I'm wondering if we just have to go a little later in order to, I don't know that we can begin on the 1st unless anybody else is on board with that, of at a minimum the 3rd. So if we need to push that end time all the way to that Thursday, Friday.
The comments that were made were so many about how hot it is in August and how people were just not pleased with, with August. So this calendar's really tough, and it will not be popular.
No, I agree with you.
Maybe we can work backwards and determine that our end date is the 25th with the teacher work day on the 26th, and then figure out what our start date would be from there. That way we're ending right before Memorial Day.
That's a great idea, and then that puts us with as late as possible of a start.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so if we can move those over, and I'm sorry, Sarah, I know it's so
Unless does that help your quarter situation? You know how, so that's where I'm like, how does that, because there's such different quarters, I don't know if that'll still solve that, but that would be a great idea if it panned out.
Yeah, and that was part of the challenge with this calendar, and a lot of it stems from where holidays fall in December, and that back to that same argument on which week you observe around the holiday, because it does make our winter break on the earliest side, which is okay, but and then we have the extra day for New Year's Day. All right, so Erin, if you don't mind getting out your calculator to count those weeks for us, that would be helpful.
Yes, I'll start going through that right now. I'm very visual, so I was kind of waiting for the colors and numbers to be shifted so I could start counting accordingly.
And Danielle, does it help at all if we start later in August and then have winter break later? Start winter break later? We've done that many times.
I don't know if we've ever had this late of a winter break start, but that is something for this team to consider, which is kind of more important to have that earlier break for winter break, or to start as late as possible. Either one's possible. I think just two different philosophies. So I think that's something that would be up to you all. Jill,
Danielle,
go ahead.
Yeah, I apologize. I know I'm brand new to this committee, so I'm not overly familiar, so I apologize. Why do we always do a half day and then a full day off before Christmas? Would that help any? Because I've never understood, like, even the last day of school. I mean, in general, I'll just say it. I hate half days in general, but I've never understood that.
So good question. A half day still counts as a full day with the way we do the releases.
Okay, so would it help at all to do the 16th as a half day and still do the 15th in December as a full day?
I think that might cause some angst for our teachers. I know we have, I don't know, Dawn, if you want to weigh in on that, or either of our principals, on having that be a full day instead of a half day, that day before winter break.
I mean, it's something teachers look forward to, but I don't know that it's the end all be all.
Dawn, any feedback there?
I know that the teachers use that time to kind of prep and get everything ready so that instead of doing work over break, they aren't. I think there could be flexibility, but you might get some backlash from them. That's just my opinion.
Okay, thank you.
Of course, you may also get backlash starting the week of August 1st, right? Like,
Exactly.
it's just a tough year. This one's just a tough one.
Yeah. Because the August 1st, it's really starting for the teachers. You're looking at July 26th.
Right. Erin, you just yell when you've got kind of an update on numbers for us.
Will do. I'm still counting.
No problem. No problem. But that is a great idea, Jill, and we can look to the team on, you know, it adds at least one more day to not have that just for this year, the 16th be a half day instead of a full day off. It does give us another day to allow us to start one day later. What is the thought on that?
I don't know that it makes that much of a difference, but I was looking at the past calendars, and in 2016-17, we started that half day for kids was December 22nd, and then the next year it was December 21st, and then the next year it was December 20th. So they've been kind of late, as late as the 22nd.
And I thought I saw Ms. Holliday's hand up, but that now it's lower. Did you have something to add?
I was just going to add, as a teacher, I would rather have that full day on the Friday or half day on the Friday and start later in August, or start a day later. And coming back that at the end of July like that is just, it feels like it cuts your summer short. So I would prefer a day later, but that's just my 2 cents.
Thank you for that. And Ronnie, I didn't want to skip you either from the teaching side. If you had something to add, I apologize.
No, that's okay. I agree. It does kind of make your summer shorter the earlier you come back. I also just think, though, that teachers are good at monitoring, adjusting. Look what we've been through, right? I just know that we get that once in a while there's a hard year, and we just do the best that we can to try to accommodate it. I know, like, from a teaching standpoint, what teachers want is very unpopular compared to what parents and students and community members want in terms of the calendar. Just, it's hard as teachers to have a whole week off at Thanksgiving, just because the kids come back and they're like checked out, you know, and the teachers are tired, and it's really hard to make use of those last few weeks right before Christmas break. But at the same time, when you look at the feedback and the data and what the majority of people want, they want that week, you know, off for Thanksgiving. So that's not going to change. If there, you know, was a way we could, you know, add that break in, but I agree, that's a long break, and it's a long time of teaching before we have a break, before, you know, we have that fall break off in Thanksgiving. But I do think that teachers do appreciate that planning time at the beginning and then at the end of their summer. So I don't know, probably from a teacher standpoint, they would rather even push it back. Again, having that half day would be nice.
Thank you. Thanks for that feedback. Erin, do I see your hand up?
Yeah, so I went through the numbers. I don't think this is going to work as is what we're looking at the screen, and here's why. If my math is right anyway. So I did, I counted 91 days for the first semester and 95 the second semester, which doesn't seem bad. But when you break it down by quarter, I have 53 days in the first quarter, 38 in the second quarter. And then quarter 3 is 47, quarter 4 is 48. So, you know, the second half of the year looks fine, but the first half of the year is where we run into issues with 53 days versus 38 days.
So you're at 186 total?
Hang on, I didn't add that part up.
Well, I think you said 91 and 95, right?
Correct, 186.
Okay, so the good news, so we have 6 days to remove off, right? So wouldn't that put us at that August 8th?
It could put us all the way to August 9th.
Okay. Now, and that's without removing the day before the break. That's keeping the break the same. So
right, but that puts us at 47 days in the first quarter, and still we're at 38 days in that second quarter. That second quarter is between the parent-teacher conferences that you have after October 14th through December, that winter break, that's the part that gets muddy.
So it's 47 and 38. We might just want to check that because normally.
Erin, are you counting this week as a part of quarter 1 or quarter 2? Because it's a part of quarter 2.
I counted it as part of quarter 1. So that would adjust, if that's not right, then I would have to adjust that for the others as well.
Yeah. So,
but then I don't work at a school site, so I wasn't sure. That's a good point.
No, so we would have the Friday before, so the quarter end on October 7th, which is early. So that one's probably 43 then. And then the quarter after begins October 11th. And then Sarah, when you're done with that, sorry, would you mind just emailing a copy of this one out to everybody in case they want to look at it? I got one request.
Yeah, I can do that.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Does it look accurate?
It looks accurate. It's just about the counts for the quarter. So we're getting any feedback or thoughts? We're getting closer?
I was recounting that.
Danielle, it's Mona.
Hi.
Hi. So the classified staff, the earlier we start, the classified staff would have to be coming back in July also, if we do a July 2nd start time for kiddos. So they've typically never, in my time, haven't come back in July. So I'm just throwing that out there because anytime somebody starts in the month of July, they become benefit eligible on the first of the following month. So any new hires, that would be just throwing that out there for an expense.
So I think we're looking right now at a tentative start date of August 9th.
Thank you.
That's currently the question on the table. Okay. Feedback on that? So I think the only challenge is within the quarters there. Question for you, given the time, would the team want us to put this one aside, double check all these counts for the quarter breakdown as it's presented right now, and move on to a couple of the easier years, come back and revisit this one, or schedule a follow-up on this one? Just want to be respectful of your time this evening. Would it be okay to move on to the other 2 years in our target? How about anybody opposed to moving on to the other 2 years? Okay, so if we can then maybe take a look at 23, 24. You know, since you can do 16 things at once, Sarah. So here's 23, 24. It starts midweek, August 9th, the day off in September, the day off in October. The quarter would end October 13th, parent-teacher conferences the week after that. In November, you can see Veterans Day, the fall break. December, back to your point, Ray, on winter break there. You'll note on this one, if you're looking at this one, which makes us a little bit later of a winter break. The day off for Martin Luther King Jr. You can see spring break indicated on there. The quarter would end March 8th, I should have mentioned. An April break, and then ending the year right before Memorial Day. 46 days in the first quarter, 43 in the second quarter, for a total of 89 days in first semester. 43 in the third quarter, 48 in the fourth quarter, for a total of 91 in the second semester, for a total of 180 days. I should also note on this calendar, we do have leap year included. Any thoughts on this calendar? Jill, is that a new hand up? I'm sorry if I missed it.
No, you're fine. Do we need to move to approve? Because this one looks awesome to me.
If only 22, 23 could follow it. We can move to approve if somebody would like to do so, or if there's any discussion first.
I'll move to approve this calendar unless someone doesn't like it.
Is there a second?
I'll second it. This is Dawn.
Thank you, Dawn. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Well, very good. Sorry, I should have started with that one just to get the confidence of the team going that you guys got this. I know you got this, but Ms. Holliday.
I just had a quick question about the teacher days before school starts. Is our extra full teacher protected day included in that? I don't know if that would affect anything, but.
So Mona, correct me if I'm wrong, but those 4 days are the teacher contract days. It doesn't specify whether they are protected days or not. Again, that's another piece through academic services. So that's not something the board necessarily votes to approve. Is that correct, Mona?
Yeah, so that's when the 186 starts your contract. So the day that she's speaking about is through the budget committee.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Sarah, is this 24-25 we're looking at?
No, this is 23-24, but I did just send the other calendar. Here's 24-25.
Thank you. So 24-25, you can see a midweek start on August 7th. Labor Day, you can see the quarter would end then on October the 4th. You can move on and see Veterans Day, the 11th, the week off fall break. You can see winter break and where that falls. Returning for the second semester on the 6th. So putting us at 89 days in the first semester with 7. Yes, that's making sure our math is spot on here. Yep, 42 and 47. And for second semester, 43 and 48. Total of 91 days, so that's 180 days in that calendar. Anyone see anything that's challenging there or that they'd like to discuss? Hearing none, does someone want to approve this? Motion to approve?
I'll move to approve this calendar.
Is that Dawn?
Dawn, yeah.
Okay. Is there a second?
This is Jill. I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Okay. Crushed it, team. We're at 4:59. Thoughts on hammering away to continue and complete our work tonight with 22-23? Thoughts on bringing it back at a different date and time to look at it? I'll leave that to you all. There's no wrong answer. Dawn? Let me know. Would you like to continue on and approve or review and approve 22-23, or would you like for the sake of time, to bring this back at another date and time? Julie?
I'm just quickly looking at the 22-23 calendar, and the numbers for like the total number of days, all those don't add up correctly. So right. I don't know if because of that, maybe we do need to come back to it just so that all the numbers are correct for the quarter days, semester days, and the total number of days says 175.
Right, we've not completed our work there. We still need some work on that one. So it's, do we want to keep hammering through it or come back? I'm hearing maybe come back. And just a reminder to not use the chat if possible.
I think like after looking at those other two calendars, I just don't see how we can't, I mean, as much as I feel we have to push that winter break back, and that's going to solve a lot of the hurdles we're running into. I don't know, looking at the other ones, it's going to be off by like a day or two. So would that help solve a lot of things if we just pushed it back?
And a reminder, and I should have said this at the beginning, I mean, they're never going to match up perfectly. You could see in the others we approved that there's times we have a 4 or 5 day disparity in our quarters and a couple of day disparity in our semester, and that's okay. We just want to get away from like a whole extra week for those 9-week classes. That's really challenging for the high school. But I'm hearing maybe look at moving winter break on that one so that it's as late as possible, and doing the last day of school, maybe the 22nd, and a half day on the 23rd. Right. Or no school on the 23rd. I apologize, I messed that up. A half day on the 22nd and no school on the 23rd, right?
Yeah, because then you wouldn't lose Monday like we currently are. So I think you could still do half day on Thursday and the day off on the Friday, because you essentially gain that Monday. So the numbers should, if you push it back that week, play out that way. And then you could still, I think, bump the start date to a Wednesday. If I'm thinking about this correctly, it could be wrong, but that might give you that extra day we're looking for a Wednesday start on the 10th.
All right, so I'm going to do some quick math on that.
Danielle?
Yes.
It's Julie. I just did some quick adding, and I'm trying to look at the calendar on my phone, so I might be off, but I think I counted 43 for the first quarter, and now I don't remember what the second quarter, 46 maybe for the second quarter. I didn't write it down though.
Okay, I'm going to take a quick stab at that math as well. I feel like we need Jeopardy music right now. Yeah, so I still get 37 for a first quarter if we start on the 10th. Because the first quarter would end on September 30th. We could try to move parent-teacher conferences to October 20th and 21st and end on the 14th and see what that does to our numbers.
Danielle, I have us ending first quarter on October 7th, not September 30th.
I have the same thing.
So then moving parent-teacher conferences from the 6th and the 7th to the same week as Veterans Day, or as Columbus Day, excuse me.
That's what it currently has, yeah.
So thoughts from our teachers on parent-teacher conferences the same week as a day off?
I don't see it as being a problem.
Okay. So ending the quarter on the 7th. So that puts us at 42.
42 days.
42 for the first. Does anybody already have the second?
I counted 47.
That's what I counted, also 47.
Which is great. That's 89. So then the third quarter, if you get there before me with math, just yell.
I'm at 38 if we end on March 3rd.
Is it better if we end on March 10th and move spring break down a week? That way parent-teacher conferences can still back up to spring break, but we just move both those lines down a week. That gives us 43 in the third quarter.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, it looks good.
So 43. So then we hopefully had 48 days in the fourth quarter. So if we end on the 18th, 19th, I think we have 48 days.
I counted 48 days also.
If we end on the 18th and 19th and not the 25th and 26th, right? Someone can double check that, but I believe that puts us at 48. But
What's the date of the beginning of the fourth quarter?
The
13th of March.
13th would be the beginning of it.
Okay.
So Sarah, in May, are we counting May 18th as the last day of? Oh, we're counting May 18th. I'm going through the 29th. Hang on a second.
Yep.
Yeah, when I end on the 18th, I get to 43 days.
Me too. Are you remembering spring break? We can't count spring break.
Nope, you're right. I counted over spring break. That's why you guys are double checking me. Thank you. Yeah, I included spring break on accident. So if that's 43. So yeah, you had the end right then, Sarah. Sarah's right. So it's still ending the 25th. So ending a little bit on the later side. Right before, I guess not. I guess how we've kept it on all the years, a relatively later year. We have traditionally kind of ended the week before that. Not always, but. Okay, so you're caught up, right, Sarah? Usually right before the holiday.
I think what you guys are seeing on the screen is everything we just talked about.
Okay, so a midweek start on the 10th, Labor Day. We've got parent-teacher conferences the same week of that holiday. But if our teachers on here and our principals on here are comfortable with that, then that's good for me. Your input's really valuable there. We've got Veterans Day, fall break. We go through the 22nd for the second quarter. 2 weeks for winter break. We return the 9th. We've got our January, February holiday. We pushed spring break 1 week, which is helpful since we go later into May. We've got the 1 day off in April. We end the 25th. Thoughts on that?
Much more palatable.
And 42, 47, 43, 48 adds up to 180.
Yeah, I think this one looks good.
Is there a motion to approve it?
I'll motion to approve. This is Amanda. Yeah.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Julie. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? You guys are awesome. Where there's a will, there's a way, right? Moving on to item number 6, discuss governing board meeting. So with the feedback that you have given me and those votes, I will be bringing forward the 3 calendars that you've approved. What I'm going to do, just for safety, is all of these edits and feedback, we are going to triple check our numbers. We are going to email all 3 of these calendars back out to you and ask that you do the same since they have your approval. And then what we'll do is bring those forward to the board meeting on Thursday, November 12th. I would love to invite any of you who are wanting to join us for that meeting here at the district office. You are welcome to attend. We've got seats spread out 6 feet apart and a mask requirement, but if you'd like to join us, we'd love to have you. If you do not want to join us or you feel like you've given your feedback, and I will do my best then to represent you and your work to the board, you're welcome to send in any comments to the board. If you'd rather do that, that would be fine as well. Submit to them any messages giving your feedback on the committee or on the calendars. You could certainly do that too. So questions on that? Yes, Ms. Holliday.
I just had another question back to the extra teacher day. I was told that it has to be added to the calendar in order for it, because this year they said it was approved by the budget, but we were told that it couldn't be added to the calendar because they had already been approved, but it needs to be a day that's actually on the calendar.
So that's certainly something that could come back to the board for approval, but that does not go on this calendar. That's
Okay.
that's not part of the school year calendar of when students start and end school.
Okay. I was told that it had to go on that calendar for some reason in order for it to be an actual day for teachers.
No, it does not go on this calendar. This is just the first day of school, the last day of school, and all of those holiday breaks that goes on this particular calendar.
Okay.
But I will follow up with our leadership team in particular, and Mona will help me with that. We'll follow up with Dr. Davidson and Ms. Myers to make sure if there's some other approval that we make sure we get it.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Anything else before we adjourn? Thank you guys for your work, for your diligence, for your commitment to 22-23. That one was a doozy. So I appreciate you. I appreciate your willingness to serve. Your feedback is just so important in this process. So thank you very much. Anything else for the good of the order? All right. Well, thank you very much. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.